Most people think to build automations like these, you either need to be a coder or you have to hire one and pay for expensive softwares on top of that. But let me tell you, that's just not true. In fact, I built this entire AI workflow to get a lead using Google Forms, ChatGPT to analyze it, Claude to personalize the response, and Gmail to send an email out to that lead using $5 of AI credits and free apps without writing a single line of code. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to build the entire thing out step by step from scratch. The instruction doc I'm going to be referring to throughout this video is inside our free Skool community. The link is in the description. And yeah, let's start building this out. So step one, I'm going to go to Google Forms. I'm going to select a blank form. So here we're going to name it lead qualification form. I'm just going to call this demo 2 lead qualification form. Then we're going to add in a name, email, company. So you have a name, email, and company. We also have budget, project description, and timeline. So if I copy this across, so we have budget. Okay, so that's our budget, project description, and timeline. And okay, and now that we've got the Google form ready, let's move to step two, which is where we're going to create our make scenario. So once your Google form is done, you can come in here, click on manage, make sure that anyone with the link can view and submit a Google form. Just click done, make sure the accepting responses is on, save, and you are good to go. And the link for your Google form can be found here. You can just copy this entire link. You can also shorten the URL and copy it, and that's about it. Your Google form is ready. Oh, and by the way, in your Google form, one thing I forgot to mention is you need to link this Google form to Google Sheets. So if you come under responses, you will see a link to Sheets button. And once you click on it, it will automatically create a new Google Sheet with all of the columns we have in our Google form. And if you come back in here, it will now show as view in Sheets. So if we go back to step two, where we're now creating a new make scenario, I come up here, create scenario. I will name this scenario demo 2 AI lead qualification system. Perfect. Okay, and now onto step three, where I've got to add a Google Forms trigger. I'm going to come into my make automation. I'm going to add Google Forms, Google Forms, watch responses. If I come back here, connect your Google account, select your lead qualification form, and set the limit to 1. So here you're going to create your connection. You can do it by choosing an existing one, or you can add a new one. This is pretty much straightforward. You just click the add button, click on sign in with Google. It will take you to the OAuth screen where you can choose an account, and yeah, then you'll be good to go. And now that we have the connection set up for the form ID, what we want to do is you want to come in and click search, say show drive forms. Yes, click OK. It's going to pop up the list of forms you have. Ours was demo 2 lead qualification form. You set the limit to 1. Click save. From now on, all you can choose all. Click save, and yeah, save the workflow, and our Google Forms trigger is set up. Our next job is to add our OpenAI ChatGPT model. But before doing that, what we've got to do is create an API key. So all you've got to do is go to platform.openai.com. You want to come into your projects. If you haven't created one before, you just click on create project, enter a project name, click on create. Once that's done, if you click on dashboard here at the top, you can come down to a list of your API keys. So currently you will see you don't have one. So you click on create new secret API key, name it whatever you'd like. So I'm going to call this demo make API key. Click create secret key. Now this key is one that you have to copy because you cannot view it again. So you're going to copy this key, And then when we come into make.com, we're going to click on add a new module. We're going to come into OpenAI. We're going to choose create a completion prompt. You're going to come into the module. You're going to choose your connection. If you haven't done it before, you can always just click on add. It's going to ask you for a connection name and the API key. This is where you would paste your API key in, click save, and you should be good to go. So once you have your API key set up, you will also need to add credits to your account. So how you do that is you go to your profile. Under billing, you will be able to see what your balance is. If you have currently $0, you can add to your credit balance. I think the minimum amount is $5. So anything upward of that you can do. You can set auto recharge to off, so that it doesn't automatically charge your card when your credit balance goes down. If you are using this in a production environment, you'd probably leave it on. You can also set usage limits like this and add alerts. So at what percentage would you want to be alerted to, and which email would you like an alert to go out? So currently I have alerts set up for 75%, 90%, and 100%. So I would be notified via email. But that's all that you kind of need to know. The main thing you actually need to do is just set up a credit balance. Anywhere between $5 to $10 is more than sufficient while we are learning here. And yeah, and with that, our OpenAI account is now completely set up. So once you have your OpenAI connection set up with your API key, you're going to choose select a method, create a chat completion. What model are we going to use? So if you come in here, you can use the GPT 3.5 turbo model. So if we look for that, GPT 3.5 turbo, and then we can add our messages. So the messages here, there are going to be two types that we use. We're going to use system prompts. This is going to be, say, chat GPT's role, and we're going to use user prompts, which is what we want out of the AI model. So just to give you a quick brief on system prompts, assistant prompts, and user prompts. So system prompts set the overall context, role, and behavior for the AI. So what they do is they establish the ground rules, personality, or specific capabilities. They usually appear at the beginning of the conversation. So when you just start prompting AI, what you want to start with is a system prompt, which is something like you are a helpful coding assistant or you are a creative writing tutor who provides constructive feedback. And the more detailed the prompts are, the better the response you're going to get from these AI models. So the assistant prompts are usually what the AI's response is to a user's question, and it's basically the output of what the model generates. And so the user's prompt is what does the user want? What do you or I want from the AI? And these are the messages or inputs sent by the human. They contain questions, requests, instructions, or information the user wants the AI to respond to. So that's just a quick summary on system, assistant, and user prompts. So now that we've got our OpenAI ChatGPT connection set up, we've selected the method create a chat completion. We've chosen the model as 3.5 turbo because it's fast and cheap, so it gives you quick results. And now we're going to add messages in here. So for our first message, we're going to enter the developer or system role, which is going to be the role of the AI. You can copy this from here, come back in and paste it. And below that, you can click add another message. This is going to be for the user's message. This is the prompt that we need to give AI. So this, we're going to select the user role. For the context, I'm going to paste that in, but I'm going to remove the name and enter the name field, the company and enter the company field, remove the budget, add the budget field. Same for project description and for the timeline. Perfect. We hit save, and once this model is saved, yep, we can check that we have all our data in here. This module is set up. And now in this example, the next step is to set up our Claude API key. This is just to demonstrate how we use different AI models in action. So before we set up the next Claude module, we just want to make sure that our automation is working as expected. So if I come in here and I check my Google Forms and this OpenAI model and I click on run once, currently we have no submissions. So this indication, like, it doesn't indicate that it's found any new rows. It just means that it's checked Google Forms for any new responses and there are none. So what we're going to do is we're going to come into our form, which you can get the link by clicking on this copy responder link and just hit copy. And if you paste it in a new tab, you'll see it. So we'll just fill this form out. For the description, we may enter something like, I need to build an AI automation system for lead analysis, and say our timeline was 1 to 3 months. And now when we click on submit, so first we should see our row added to our Google Sheet. So if I come into my Google Sheet here, as you can see, all of the data has come through. So we can see the name, the email, the company, the budget, project description, and timeline. And now if we go back to our make automation and we run this, it's got a new row and it's also passed that data on to ChatGPT. So here when we check, if I look at the answers field, under, so say name, it's going to have the answers here, the timeline, the email, and basically you get the gist of it, but all of the values are here. Now one very interesting thing to note is, if you saw earlier when we were setting up this model, when we came in here, we chose these values for our text content. We chose name, company, budget, project description, and timeline, everything that you would expect to be plugged in from our Google form. But what ends up happening is, if we check the response, and more importantly when we check the messages, so the first message was the one we sent the system, right? This was just configured. But the second message, if we look at the entire body of what was sent, when we clicked on analyze this lead name, and we wanted it actually to just have the value of the name, but can you see it has this, like, all this additional text around it, which basically comes from the Google form, because the form in its response under answers, say for name, it actually has this text answers object. Inside that, it has answers, which is an array. Inside that, it has an object, and that object's value is Adrian. Like, even if you don't know what arrays are, collections, values, all of that, which I will create a separate video about, or which is in the AI fundamentals inside the Skool community. But basically, this means that the name field doesn't just contain the string value or the actual value of what we've entered, it contains this more complex structure. So what we actually need to make a small change in our OpenAI model is, here for our name, what we actually need to pass in when we are choosing it is the name. But if we click into this drop down, now we see this text answers field, answers and value. So what that is the actual value we need. Same for the company, we come into company, we click text answers, answers, value. Same for budget, so we come into budget, text answers, answers, value. And for project description, same process. And lastly for timeline. Okay, so now if we save this and we save even our automation, now if I was to enter another response, the budget, the description, I'm just going to copy from here, just going to change it a bit and choose the timeline. And now if I submit this and I come back to my automation and then run it, it will find the new row, run the OpenAI response. This output of this model, if I check under the answers tab, is going to be exactly the same. Like, it's going to have the same structure, right? So inside the answers, the company, the text answers, answers array, and then the object. But now what you will notice is, in the OpenAI model here, if we check what the input is, for the messages, the first message is the same. It's the one we sent the system, giving it its role. But the second message inside this content, can you see now how clean our data object or our content looks? The name has the exact name, company, the exact company, budget, project, and so on. And so now we've given it this provide lead score, qualification level, and key insights. And if we check the output of this, it gives you your lead score, qualification level hot, and the key insights about this lead. So this is a key mistake to avoid, is when working with Google Forms, what we want to do is run the model at least once so that we get that text answers array. And then inside that, we drill down to the actual value we're looking for. When setting it up the first time, it won't show you that until you've run the model once. So just do that, make a submission, and then come in and update these values. Next, we are going to set up our Claude API key. So to do so, we're going to go to console.anthropic.com. If you're not logged in, you can just log in using your same Google account. In here, you will come under API keys, similar to how we had done for OpenAI and ChatGPT. You just come in here, create a key, give it a name. So say I wanted to name this demo key. I would just add it. It would give you this key. You can copy it. You need to save it in a safe place because you can't view it again. So copy this key, save it, and we will use it to set up our automation. You can close out of the screen. If you come into billing, this is where we will add credits, similar how we did with OpenAI. You can add just $5. That's more than sufficient. And if you come under limits, this shows you rate limits. We don't need this. We just need to make sure our spend limits are set up. So I think by default, it's $100 each month. You can change this as you'd like, and also add email notification at what levels you'd want to be notified about usage. But yeah, that's it for setting up API keys, billing, and limits with Claude. And now we're going to use this Claude API key in our make.com automation. So next up, we're going to set up our Claude model inside make.com. So if we come back into make, add another module, we choose Claude, create a prompt. This, we're going to add a new connection. When you click on add, it's going to ask you for a connection name and your API key, which we copied from the previous section. So we're going to come in here, paste our API key, and click save, and we should be good to go. Then I already have mine set up. So once that's done, you will see a list of models. So here we're going to choose the Claude Haiku 3.5 model. Again, we can enter max tokens as 500. For the messages, if we come back here, I'm going to copy across this system message where it says you are a sales psychology expert, and analyze this lead's communication style and recommend the best approach for engagement. So if I come back in here to my make automation, so I'm going to add message here. I'm going to choose the assistant role, which is the same like the system role in OpenAI's ChatGPT. I'm going to paste this content in, click save. And then if I come back to my instructions, I'm going to give it this lead information. And this is the user message or prompt that we are going to use. So we're going to give it the lead information. We're going to include the name, project description, as well as the ChatGPT analysis. And then what we're going to do is we just give Claude some direction saying, I need you to think of what the best values for these parameters will be. So communication style assessment, recommended engagement approach, and say suggested email tone. And in your final response, please only include the email body of what I need to send this potential client. So back in my Claude model, we have the assistant message set up. We're also going to set one up for the user, and for the content, we're going to choose type text and enter this value in. So we're going to replace the lead information name with the name text answers value. For the project description, same way. And for the ChatGPT analysis, we will enter the result, and then we indicate to Claude what we want the parameters to be, and in your final response we indicate that we only want the email body. So I'm going to click save. I'm going to click save again. And now if we run this model, so I'm going to submit another form, enter the name, email, company, budget, project description, and we indicate the timeline. So if we click submit, come back to automation and click run once, you can see the Claude model is running, and there, it's done. So if we check our forms as expected, we will see the name, company, all of these details as usual. If we come into our OpenAI model, we will see our response. So it indicates a lead score, qualification level, key insights. And now if we check our Claude model and the outputs of this node, so in our inputs first, if we see our messages, the first message is the assistant message that we provided, and the second one is the user prompt with all of our information. So it passes on all the information perfectly, the name, the project description, and all of this content about the lead. And what we ask it for is the final email body. So in the output, if we check the content, the type, the text, and this is the analysis and recommendation. So it gives us this entire body that we can use in our email, and that's what we're going to set up in the next section. And now, last but not least, we're going to send out our personalized email response. So to do that, we're going to come back to our demo. We're going to set up a new module. We're going to set up Gmail, send an email, and we're going to configure this thing. So by now you usually have your connection set up. If you haven't done so, if you have done so, you can just choose it from this list. If you haven't, you can click add. It will show you the standard Google login screen, and you can use that to sign in. So for the email that we want to be sending this to, so we're going to choose that from the email that the user had entered in their form. So this is the email that it's going to go through. For the subject, we are going to say thanks for your interest, followed by the person's name. So we're going to replace the form name with the actual value. And then for the content, we will copy this template. We're going to replace the form name with the name, the description with the project description, the budget, the timeline. And now here we are going to include Claude's response. So the response we get from Claude, this is just a demonstration purpose. So the actual response from Claude may vary. In later videos, we'll talk about how to refine this, but this is just an example. Like basically your job here is to prompt the AI model in such a way that it gives you a very specific response. And so in some scenarios, what you may want to do is, rather than sending this email as an automation directly to the client, because AIs can always make mistakes, what you may have this do is add this data to a Google sheet so that you can proofread it and then just copy that across and then paste it and send it through your normal Gmail. That's one way of doing it. There are a bunch of ways, but basically for this demonstration, it's mainly about seeing how do we take an AI personalized response, which Claude will give us. The output of that is always going to be dependent on the prompts we use. We've just included a very simple prompt, and so yeah, that is the purpose for this video. So we're going to come back here, we're going to change that to say your name, and then a PS saying you'll be in touch within 24 hours. So once we have that all set up, we're going to click save. And now our module, we're going to save our automation, and now our automation is ready to run. We're going to come back here, submit another response. So I'm going to enter my name, say this was my project description, and my timeline. So now if I click submit, we will see that this row has been added to our Google Sheet. And if we come into our make.com automation and we click run once, we find the row. It's got the GPT output. Now it's running through Claude. We've got the output and we've got the email. So if I come in and check my inbox, if this will only load, and there we can see the response. Now this has not been formatted, so I will do that now. So if we come back to our email, what we need to do for formatting is use break tags. So what I'm going to do is, these are basically just new line characters to properly space out content. And so that is what we are going to do and save this. So we will just run this quickly again. Enter a budget, project description, and choose a timeline. Okay, submitted. We come back into make, run this. We see it got a new row. The GPT model ran. The Claude model is currently running. That is done, and the email has been sent. So here, if we come in, we can see we have a new email. So here, so it shows you, hi, thank you, hi Genesis, based on our form inputs. Thank you for reaching out about, this is the project name. Then the project description, this is our project scope, the budget, the timeline. And then this response is basically everything that we've entered with that the Claude model gave us. This output, like I mentioned, may not always be perfect, so it needs a refinement, and that refinement comes with your prompting experience. And then it ends with best regards, Adrian. I forgot to put a break statement in there for the formatting, but you just put a break statement and then have your PS saying, I'll be in touch within the next 24 hours to discuss the project in further detail. So that is basically how we set up an end-to-end automation in make.com using Google Forms, ChatGPT, Claude, and Gmail. The main purpose of this was to show you how we can use smarts or intelligence and add AI models to these workflows so that we can get more personalized responses. Now, obviously, the output of these AI models may not always be perfect. So, one very important thing to know is that to prompt well using the clear framework, and once we have prompted correctly and we're sure of the output, even then sending out an automated email to a customer may not always be the best idea. And so a better way of doing it might be to just add this response to a Google Sheet so that you can proofread it before manually sending it out, or building an automation to send it out. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.